My name is Linda. I'm 32, a financial analyst in Columbus, Ohio. Last Thanksgiving, my mother stood up at the dinner table. She looked straight at me, her voice clear, her eyes sharp. In this family, Linda has always been the black sheep. The room went silent. Forks froze in midair. Conversations died instantly. My stomach twisted. I felt every relative's eyes burning into me. She didn't stop there. She went on about Marcus being the heart of the family. That night, surrounded by aunts, uncles, cousins, I was humiliated in the cruelest way possible. But none of them knew the truth. The truth I had been hiding for years. Because behind closed doors, I was the one keeping this family financially alive. Not Marcus, not my parents, me. The so-called black sheep. And at that table, something inside me snapped. Not in shame, but in fury, sharp and undeniable. I realized silence had protected them long enough. This time silence was over. What came next would turn that Thanksgiving dinner into a reckoning none of them would ever forget. Growing up on Maple Street, I was always living in Marcus's shadow. He was 3 years older, with that easy smile that pulled people in. The star quarterback. The golden boy. Friday nights were all about him. Mom painted his jersey number on her cheek. Dad paced the sidelines like he was the coach. And me? I sat in the bleachers with homework. Why can't you be more like your brother? That became the soundtrack of my childhood. When Marcus scraped by with a C+, they celebrated with his favorite dinner. When I brought home straight A's, I got a distracted, "That's nice, honey." At graduation, I was valedictorian. I spent weeks writing a speech about perseverance. The night before, Mom said, "Don't talk too long, Linda. People want the reception." I delivered that speech to a distracted audience. Relatives whispered, phones buzzed, no one listened. When Marcus's name was called 20 minutes later, our section erupted in cheers and whistles. That was the night I learned my place. Smart, reliable, but invisible in my own family. Later, college planning drove the message deeper. Marcus got Ohio State, a football scholarship, new gear. I got community college. Dad said it was a smart financial choice. What he meant was, there wasn't money for me to dream big. So I worked nights at the bookstore, covering textbooks and gas while Marcus partied. But even then, they compared us. He was the heart. I was too serious. Each family dinner, each holiday, each milestone. I felt myself fading further into the background. The message was clear. Marcus mattered. Linda endured. But endurance has limits, and one day mine would run out. Community college didn't shine like Ohio State, but I treated it like a battlefield. I worked nights at the bookstore. Tutored math students, kept a 4.0 GPA. Mrs. Peterson, the manager, noticed. "You've got a head for numbers, Linda." She pushed me toward finance. A seed planted that would change my life. Meanwhile, Marcus lived the dream at Ohio State. Photos of parties, football games, endless fun, but his calls home changed. Less about campus life, more about money. The meal plan doesn't cover everything. Books are crazy expensive. Somehow the money always appeared. My parents stretched thin to keep his lifestyle alive. By my junior year, I transferred to university. Scholarships and savings carried me through. I discovered I could read numbers like stories. Balance sheets spoke louder than family dinners. Then came the internship. Regional investment firm. I wasn't Marcus's little sister anymore. I was Linda, the intern analyst trusted. While I rose quietly, my father's construction business collapsed. A client bankruptcy left him with debts he couldn't recover. The bank circled like vultures. One night, Mom's voice cracked through the phone. "Honey, we're behind on the mortgage." I didn't hesitate. 500 gone from my savings just like that. That small bailout became a pattern. Every few months, another crisis. Utilities, car repairs, groceries. I filled the gaps without complaint. After graduation, I landed a full-time analyst role. A paycheck bigger than I'd ever imagined. But my money didn't stay mine for long. It flowed back home like water through a cracked pipe. Marcus dropped out, back in his childhood room. At 24, jobless, reckless, still called the heart. I was covering bills, debts, emergencies, quietly financing the family that dismissed me. At Marcus's wedding, I wrote checks for deposits, photographers, flowers. Mom said, "It's important to start a marriage right." So I funded their fairy tale. When Sarah got pregnant, the phone calls grew desperate. Specialized treatment. We're short 3,000. I paid it. Each year the numbers grew. Each year my resentment sharpened. But I swallowed it. Because family comes first, right? Until one night, Marcus crashed Mom's car drunk. Legal fees piled on top of repairs. Once again, I paid. But this time, something inside me cracked. The weight was too much. And Thanksgiving was around the corner. That dinner would be the night every hidden truth exploded. Thanksgiving started like every other year. I brought wine, gifts, the smile I'd practiced for years. Marcus slumped on the couch, hungover. The marriage was crumbling. But no one said it out loud. Relatives arrived, buzzing about Marcus's potential. My promotion got a polite nod, nothing more. Uncle Bob joked, "Corporate robot." Aunt Helen sighed, "Career's nice, but family matters more." I swallowed the bitterness like I always did. But dessert changed everything. Mom stood, coffee cup in hand. Her face held that look I knew too well. "Marcus," she said proudly, "has always been the heart of this family." Relatives nodded, smiling at him. I braced myself. "And Linda," her eyes cut through me, "has always been the black sheep." The words hit harder than any silence ever had. Heat flushed my face, my chest tightening. Relatives nodded again, as if relieved. As if she'd said what they all believed. She's cold. Money-focused. She doesn't understand family. I almost laughed at the irony. The woman bankrolled by me, calling me selfish. Something inside me snapped clean. Not shame, not hurt. Fury. Sharp, controlled, undeniable. I set my plate down carefully. The room froze. I looked Mom in the eye. And I smiled. A smile they'd never seen before. "Perfect," I said calmly. "Then stop using my money to stay afloat." Her face drained of color. Gasps echoed around the room. I pulled out my phone, scrolling fast. Years of records at my fingertips. The $100 every month for the mortgage. The $8,000 for Marcus's wedding. The $3,000 when Dad's business failed. The $200 for your surgery. Should I keep going? Whispers filled the room. Marcus stared at the floor, red-faced. Cousin Jennifer shook her head. "We had no idea." "Of course you didn't," I said. "Because the black sheep kept her mouth shut." I turned to Marcus, my voice sharp. "Tell them about your drinking. Tell them why Sarah left. Tell them why you keep losing jobs." "Linda, stop!" Mom's voice cracked. But I didn't stop. "You wanted an announcement, Mom? Here it is. Over 4 years, I've given this family $47,000. And tonight, the bank of Linda closes. Forever." The room was silent. Utter, shocked silence. But the fallout from that one sentence would test me more than I ever imagined. The silence after my words stretched on forever. No forks clinking, no whispers, nothing. Then Mom whispered, desperate, "Linda, this isn't the time or place." I cut her off. "You made it the time and place." I scrolled further down my phone. September 15th, Marcus's car repairs. October 3rd, utilities. November 20th, groceries. Each number landed like a hammer blow. Faces shifted from confusion to shame. Uncle Bob leaned forward. "You mean you paid for all this?" "Yes," I said flatly, while being called cold and selfish. Marcus finally lifted his eyes. Anger, embarrassment, maybe fear. "You didn't have to do this," he muttered. "Didn't I?" I shot back. "Because if I hadn't, you'd be on the street right now." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Linda, honey, we're grateful." "No, you're not," I snapped. Gratitude doesn't humiliate. Gratitude doesn't erase. Gratitude doesn't call the provider a black sheep. I turned to Marcus, pointing directly. "You've lived rent-free. You've eaten food I paid for. You've driven cars I repaired. And not once have you said thank you." His jaw tightened. "You don't understand pressure." "Pressure?" I laughed, bitter. "Try carrying everyone's bills." While being mocked for it, I saw my father slump, shoulders heavy. "Linda, we never meant." "You did," I cut in. "And now you'll live with the truth." Around us, relatives stared in stunned silence. Aunt Helen wiped her eyes. Cousin Jennifer whispered, "Unbelievable." I set my phone down. "Here's what's happening. The Bank of Linda is closed. No more mortgage payments, no more bailouts, no more excuses." The words hung like smoke in the air. Final. Irreversible. Mom reached for me. "Linda, we can't survive without—" "Then maybe you should have thought of that before you branded me the outsider." I grabbed my purse, my coat. Every step toward the door felt lighter. At the threshold, I turned back. "You want the truth? Marcus will keep wasting potential. You'll keep enabling him. But me? I'll build a life. With people who value me." The door shut behind me, leaving them in silence. But walking away wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of real freedom. The weeks after Thanksgiving were the quietest of my life. No phone calls, no desperate texts, no guilt trips. At first, the silence felt strange, like losing a limb I'd carried too long. But soon it became freedom. My paycheck stayed mine. My time stayed mine. For the first time in years, I wasn't the family ATM. Mom called after 6 days. Her voice was soft, apologetic. "Linda, honey, we need to talk. We misunderstood at dinner." "No misunderstandings," I said. "You called me the black sheep. I told you the truth." She tried to minimize, to excuse. But she didn't admit the core. They had depended on me. And humiliated me anyway. Marcus was worse. Angry, blaming. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." "No, Marcus," I said calmly. "You embarrassed yourself." Meanwhile, my own life began to bloom. Without the weight of constant crises, I was lighter, stronger. Work thrived. My boss noticed. Opportunities opened. Tom and I grew closer. He said one night, "You finally look like yourself." Months passed. Dad took a steady job under someone else. Mom cut expenses, learned to manage. They even downsized the house. And Marcus, finally, faced his drinking, got sober, held a real job. It wasn't instant. It wasn't easy. But without my money as a crutch, they found a way. 8 months later, Mom called again. This time not begging, not blaming. "You were never the black sheep, Linda," she said quietly. "You were the strongest one. We just couldn't see it." Her words landed differently. Not as validation, but as confirmation of what I already knew. Because I had built a life without their approval. I had found belonging on my own terms. And when Tom proposed in our kitchen, ring slipping onto my hand, I realized something powerful. Being the black sheep had never been a curse. It was freedom. If being different means being strong, if being strong means setting boundaries, then I'll wear that label with pride. Sometimes family will call you selfish for refusing to carry them. But the truth is simple. Standing up for yourself isn't betrayal. It's survival. So if they call you the black sheep, smile. Because it means you're finally free.